Resuming Nerd World Order broadcast. Dynaphones connected. Initiating broadcast signal in
5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Ladies, gentlemen, and knights of the Nerd World Order, this is the Nerd World Order broadcast. I am the man that you call Dukes, and to my right, it's all about the...
Booyah! What's up? It's your boy Joe, baby.
And to my other right, weighing in at 178 adamantium-filled pounds, coming straight out of Krakoa, Alfonso X-Man Flores.
Gene!
And with that, we are starting another episode of the Nerd World Order broadcast. We are going to be discussing Ant-Man and the Wasp, Quantumania. So first of all, this movie came in this weekend at $104 million domestically. I don't know how much it made worldwide, but we Americans apparently decided to consume some Ant-Man and the Wasp, Quantumania. So based on those numbers, I think it's very likely that they'll continue with the franchise. However, critics did not like the movie. 48% of critics said trash. However, the other opinion that matters is people like you and me. 84% of movie viewers, moviegoers definitely enjoyed this movie, but none of that matters. None of that matters. I don't care about 48%. I don't care about 84%. I care about two opinions, and those are the opinions that you should care about. Joe, can you start us off? What was your overall opinion of Ant-Man and the Wasp, Quantumania?
I almost think if the ratings were dyslexic when they were writing it, because it's 84 and 48. And I think you're part of the 48, most likely.
Yes.
I enjoyed the movie. I enjoyed it. For me, it's an Ant-Man movie. So I like I like an Ant-Man movie. So when I watch a movie like an Ant-Man movie, there's only so much Ant-Man can do, which to your point, you've said a few times, Alan, he gets big, he gets small. He gets big, he gets small. There's only so much you could do with it, but I think you would get more attention if they did more dope fighting instead of jumping punching, because that seems that's the only thing he's doing. Like it'd be cool if he did full combat, kind of like a Shang-Chi maybe, and then shrink and then pop up and do like some different moves. Because when we did a review on Ant-Man 2, you said the same thing. What you did in Ant-Man 2, we seen in Ant-Man 1 already. And it's the same thing in Ant-Man 3. So you're telling me, like in the three different movies, you can't come up with new moves for Ant-Man or the Wasp to do, which I'm sure you could do, because if it was an anime, they'd be doing all kinds of crazy ass moves. But I enjoyed the movie for what it was. I didn't go in expecting it going to be like the best Marvel movie, but it was a good Marvel movie. And for me, it was a lot better than some of the stuff that we got in trashy Phase 4 for me.
Alfonso X-Man Flores, can you give your opinion to the live members of the Nerd World Order broadcast?
So, ladies, gentlemen, and knights of the Nerd World Order, you know me. I loved it. I sometimes, it's like I look at critic scores and I'm like, I see everything through like a child's view. Everything's a wonder, everything's fun, everything's great. And it's like, is that bad? Is that bad that I'm like that, or is that good? I'm totally fine with it, man. I'm always looking at the glass half full. The movie was a lot of fun. It did have some shortcomings that we could discuss later, but it introduced an amazing villain, and we're going to see a lot more of course, because we already know the names of the Avengers movies. With Ant-Man, it's going to be fun. It's going to be a blast. It's going to be little jokes here and there. Little visuals that are just they get you going. this whole story is it's kind of it's interesting because there's a couple things here in Marvel Comics that if you knew you'd recognize. So like of course the Quantumverse is basically the microverse in the comics where you have the micronauts. And I think there was some kind of legalities where they didn't get like, you know, they didn't get the rights to the micronaut, somebody else owns it.
It's like Hasbro, right?
So they weren't able to do that. Right. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, because they I think they went together with the toy line Hasbro. So they weren't able to do that. But when you watch this, you're like, oh, those guys are clearly micronauts, everybody in the Quantumverse, right? So that was cool. It was a good little throwback. And then this whole story, it's an old Fantastic Four story where Ramatut originally came in. That's the first time you see King as Ramatut. He takes the Fantastic Four down into the quantum realm or the microverse or whatever it is, and hilarity ensues, right? So Ramatut is, of course, one of the other King personas, and like I do, Ramatut is going to lead us to Apocalypse because Apocalypse has a lot of his origin wrapped around Ramatut. I won't go too much into that. Other than that, I can't wait. We see Apocalypse in the next movie. I'm going to be stoked. I honestly didn't see any Mephisto sightings. That was kind of a bummer because I was looking for him, but he might be there. Maybe in the second viewing, I'll see that. But all in all, like I said, it was a great time. Baskin Robbins, got to represent. They don't play. I definitely recommend going out and seeing it. I'm going to see it again. I don't know about you guys, but I'm going to watch it again and probably again after that.
I did not. A lot of the things that you guys talk about are things that I definitely had a challenge with in the movie. There's just so much for me to go over. So let me jump into some of the stuff that Joe talked about, not trying to be just say everything that Joe says, but there was no real progression or development of the Ant-Man character. And I feel like when it comes to let's say the Marvel movies, if you take a look at like Captain America and you take a look at the Iron Man character, even Spider-Man, there's a progression of the character. And maybe I'm just overthinking it, but it's like, really? That's what we're doing? I didn't care for that because there was no progression. I think a good way to put it would be to say, Joe talks about the fighting style. Fighting style never improved, but he was talking to Cassie about, oh, this is how you fight, right? So he's telling Cassie how to fight, but then he doesn't do that, to Joe's point. And so it's like, okay, so you're going to give this, it's like telling your kid not to do something, and then you do it. It just doesn't make any sense. Let's see here. MODOK, okay, boo. MODOK was awful. The special effects that's the worst special effects I've seen since like I watched the Sci-Fi Channel movie. And when it comes to describing how bad special effects are, Sci-Fi Channel is the bottom. Like that's the floor. That's the dirty floor. That's like you dig into the dirty floor and there's like mud underneath the floor. That's Sci-Fi Channel special effects. And let me tell you, those special effects were Sci-Fi Channel horrible. What else can I complain about with this movie? There's just so much. I'm trying to keep it positive. That's why I had Alfonso go for me because I figured he could brighten it up a little bit. But there's so much wrong with this movie.
Dude, like even like you knew that was going to be Darren. When you heard MODOK was going to be in it, like I don't think anybody did not think it was not going to be Darren.
I didn't even remember who Darren was, bro. I'm be honest. That guy came on. I was like,
Yellow Jacket. He was Yellow Jacket.
He's a Yellow Jacket, bro. Like you at least like the first Ant-Man movie, so you should at least know that's him.
Remember, Ant-Man went in there, short circuited him a little bit.
I knew it was him after they had to explain who he was. It's like, hey, everybody, like Alan, who doesn't remember who this guy is, let's explain who he is. I'm like, oh, okay. Yeah. It's like I felt like Yellow Jacket was a pretty formidable enemy, and then they just turned they turned the Yellow Jacket character into a punchline. Like MODOK was just one big punchline. He's supposed to be this mechanized. I'm sure Alfonso can just spit it out, but the mechanized something
Organism.
for only killing. But he was just goofy.
Mhm.
Alfonso doesn't know it.
Yeah, it's mechanized organism designed for only for killing.
Yeah.
But to touch on your points, Alan, the progression. Yeah, you didn't see a lot of progression for Ant-Man. Where you did see progression was progression for Cassie, and they're not making any mention of it. But these new Avengers, that's everything that's been building up. This is what we're gonna get. I bet you the new Avengers are gonna come. They're gonna handle some business. They're gonna get pinned down at the last minute, maybe even after the first Avengers movie or first new Avengers movie, and then the old Avengers are going to come back to bail them out.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Or it's going to be vice versa. The old Avengers are going to get pinned down, the new Avengers are going to come and save them. So I did see progression with Cassie. As far as your other point, I completely agree. This movie had way too much CGI. What it needed was more practical effects. Because it had so much CGI, it almost started to fall in the realm of the Spy Kids movies, of Shark Boy and Lava Girl, Book of Boba Fett, right? So yeah, just because, especially with MODOK and George Lopez, I mean, same big head guy, But I enjoyed the MODOK thing. It was a lot of fun. He was pretty much a badass until he took off his mask, and then he was like, oh, But yeah, the CGI it was just too much. I mean, it was like Avatar, or wanting to be like Avatar, but not as good as the CGI. Just a better story.
MODOK looked like when Alfie first started to Photoshop pictures. before Alfie got really good, bro. That's what it looked like. Alfie's good at Photoshopping now, but before, like in the beginning stages, that's what it looked like. But when you talk about the progression of Cassie, this is kind of like the issue that I had with it. I mean, it's not really a big issue, but so we're to believe that Cassie's that smart all of a sudden. Like her dad's a thief, right? He's in electronics. His mom, there's not much about her or what she does. And then now his daughter is so smart, she can just figure out the quantum realm. Like she just said, hey, let me see your old books and ask, Hank Pym, and then, figure out the quantum realm. Hey, if I knew this, I could have saved you. You know what I mean? So it's like, I mean, I think that's cool, I guess. But in that time frame, like she's that smart, and then she's going to jail, and then you know what I mean? Like his whole if his whole thing about losing time and birthdays, but yet the time that you're with them, it seems like you didn't spend that much time with her because one, you didn't know that she was experimenting with Hank and and Wasp down there about the quantum realm, and two, she's getting into jail quite a few times. And then you bond at the end of the movie, which is fine. But I just felt like that's to the point is there's not much thought in the process of the story, right? Because
to be fair,
it doesn't make sense.
Yeah, Ant-Man he's not an idiot. Scott Lang, he was somebody who worked at this like a computer company, and he hacked in and gave everybody their money back. He was somebody who he's got a PhD in something, right? And he went to thievery because he wanted to basically do the Robin Hood thing, steal from the rich, give to the poor, give back to the people, right? And that's one of the reasons why Hank liked him. And when he brought him in, so of course Cassie inherited some of that intelligence. And then when she has a mentor like Hank Pym, who's kind of top of his game in the Marvel universe so far, because we don't have Reed Richards yet, that says a lot. I really think that I think that was done well. Of course, she's going to hide her antics from her father because he just wants to think of her as his little baby girl, and she can do no wrong. But she's like she's a warrior out there, trying to fight injustice. So I mean I bought that.
That was that old school David Wayne saying, "No, bro, yeah, you shouldn't buy that, bro. That's just lazy writing." He used to say that all the time. Like anytime he disagreed with something, bro, come on, man, dude. Like quantum realm and that thing, bro, that's deep in some science, big intellectual stuff, bro. An electric engineer is nowhere near that, bro. I'm sorry, dude. If that was Hank Pym's granddaughter, You know what I mean? If Ant-Man had a kid with a Wasp, I'll buy that. Because because even Hope is smart. I buy that. But that's just, to Alan's point, that's just lazy writing for me. Because you're trying to set, because Hank is smart, and in the comics, like Hank was the main freaking Ant-Man, and then now it's not. And so he's not the smart guy anymore. So I get it. You have to establish someone smart like that. But for me, it's like, like hoopla tricks. Hey, look it over here. And then you're trying to, trick me. You're not going to trick me.
I have to agree with both of you gentlemen. I feel like the attempt to create a story where Scott Lang gets back and he's pretty much again ignoring his daughter.
Yeah.
It's like, I'd rather write this book and go to all these different book signings and stuff instead of spend time with my daughter to the point when I don't realize that she's like going to jail, but everyone else in the family knows. That's just some bad writing. And I feel like either they needed to highlight that or they needed to not use it, because it was just kind of this in the middle. Yeah. But then to Alfonso's point, I felt like it was feasible that Cassie did create the quantum realm device, because if you think about it, she wasn't creating a transport. She was simply creating a beacon, like a satellite. And if you think about the electronics thing, like it's basically electronics and engineering. She wasn't trying to create a transporter or anything like that. She simply created a satellite. And, it's like if Hank Pym knows enough to understand how to transmit into the quantum realm, and she understands electronics enough, I felt like it was feasible. It didn't bother me too much. To me, that wasn't genius stuff. I feel like a genius helped her, but essentially all she did was create a radio, so I didn't have too much trouble with that part.
No, bro. No, dude. I'm going to say no again, bro. Come on, man. Come on, man. Dude. So you watch Ant-Man 1 when she's a little girl. If you're that smart, bro, you should have showed something in Ant-Man 1, which you didn't, because you made up some new hoopla story to show that she's smart. Because if she was that smart, you should have did that in Ant-Man 1. Ant-Man 2, or at the end of Endgame, like you come back and you're hugging your kid. You spent all the time in Ant-Man 2 trying to be with your daughter, right? Because you kept, or it was after the fact. No, it was Ant-Man 2, yeah. So you spent all that time, you got a little tracer on your freaking ankle. You're making traps inside your thing. So you're creating a dad who really loves his daughter and would do anything for his daughter. And then here comes Ant-Man 3. And now the dude that you made us believe that went through all that hardship in Ant-Man 1, when Hank Pym said, yo, your daughter's going to look at you in your face, and either you're going to respect you or you're not. And this is a choice to make. To the guy that's walking around doing little book signings, reading books, I love you, Cassie, and don't know anything about your daughter. So in that time frame that you lost of 5 years, you're trying to tell me you're not the same dad? No, bro, I don't buy that whole part. If I'm really being technical about it, you're using Phase 5, and all that was for me is just a Kang prequel. And what I mean by a Kang prequel is that's just a whole movie designated to set up Kang, and you made up little different tidbits so you can just throw Kang in there, and this is Kang. And this is why, for me, it doesn't work, and why I don't think as of yet he's better than Thanos. Because Thanos, he was in there a little bit, and you knew he was a badass. He wasn't in there the whole movie, and then eventually he comes in. Where Kang, the whole movie was like, here's Kang. It was just a prequel for Kang. This is Kang. This is the next big baddie, because you didn't do anything in Phase 4 other than Loki to try to introduce who Kang was, right? And then you're going to do a movie, hey, this is what Kang is. You wasted all Phase 4. So when Kang is a big badass, this is where I have a problem with. If he kills characters, who are you going to be sad for? Exactly. Nobody. Because all the people you cared about are freaking dead already, dude. And James Gunn is going to kill off some more people in freaking Guardians of the Galaxy. So the people that you grew up with are gone. So yeah, he's a badass, but who he's going to kill?
let me interject with one thing here real quick. So as far as Scott doing his books, his signings and all that, he's got to provide for his daughter. Okay. So I get that. The second thing is his daughter's not a baby girl anymore. And dealing with a baby girl who you love and you cherish, you put on this pedestal is different than dealing with a teenage daughter, right? So he wants to treat her like that, which probably pushes her away. And it's all too familiar area with me. You know what I mean? It's like, this is my baby girl. I'm a woman
Alfie.
now, right?
Stop
no,
it.
Tell you,
because
dude.
I know how you
I'll
are with your older daughters and your younger daughters. Stop it. Stop it, Alfie. You will not be focused on your book when I know you love your kids, because you will not be out there promoting all your book. Dude, you guys to get paid, but to your point that your daughter's already old. It doesn't matter. And I know for a fact you're still in your daughter Victoria's life. I know for a fact still do that. And there's no way that you're going to be writing a book, walking around, daydreaming, talking to yourself, and then neglecting Victoria. Quit capping, bro. Capping. That's cap. That's cap. Stop it.
Oh, man.
I'm not going to let you dilute our audience with your bularchy. Stop it.
So I just picture Alfonso, like his son comes up to him and he's like, Daddy. And he's like, no, I got Uncanny X memes to make, son.
Yeah. You're not going to do that. You're
Twice.
not.
No, I'm kidding.
You're not. Quit capping, bro. However, I know it sounds like I'm ranting and I hate it. It didn't bug me enough to like dislike the movie anymore. I see what you're doing, Marvel. Like, you just can't fool me, but it didn't bug me to the point where like I'm like, it made the movie bad. I'm like, I see what you did. Whatever, you got to move the story along. Because you have to show she's so smart to do this, because how is he going to get back at the end? Oh, she already established that she could do that. That's how they get back. Lazy writing, though.
Speaking of lazy writing, we know that there were big plans for Phase 5. They were supposed to be pushing out movies and TV shows and all that stuff. Looks like a lot of that's on hold. Do you guys feel like this movie had any effect on that?
No,
Alfonso, you're the positive one.
Yeah, I think it was all Phase 4 that had the effect on that. I mean, just, they had to look at it. They had to take a look at what they were doing, and they had to do something different, and it just happened to coincide with the timing of Ant-Man and Quantumania.
How much did
I'm going to have to agree.
How much did Captain Marvel make?
I don't know.
It made over $1 billion.
Like 250.
Come on. We know if I do a Google search, the broadcast is going to crash. So don't ask me to do a Google search right now.
I think it made over $1 billion, right? We all agree that movie was like a Phase 4 movie, if you think about it. Out of all the Phase 1, 2, 3, it was like a Phase 4 movie. It did well because of the anticipation of like everyone's like, you need to watch this movie before you watch Infinity War, right? It was the buildup. Mm-hmm. And it wasn't that good. And for me, that almost seems like the start of really bad movies was from that movie right there. Because you're taking advantage of, we're going to go watch it regardless whether it's good or not. And I just think Kevin Feige is very smart, and he looks in there and he sits there. Here's what I think. I don't think Ant-Man had anything to do with him pushing back Phase 4. Who I think has him thinking that is James Gunn. I think James Gunn has him thinking like, you know what? Let's start thinking about it, because now he has competition. Like, there's people going to be out there like James Gunn's not going to bring DC back. But just think about this. People said the same thing about Turner when it came to WCW and Eric Bischoff came in. When they brought in Eric Bischoff, he came in. That's when Alan Dukes said, yo, I know you don't watch wrestling no more. I know you're disappointing with him, but you need to watch him because Hulk Hogan's a villain. I said, what? He said, yeah, man, Hulk Hogan's a villain. I said, what? He said, yeah, man, Hulk Hogan is now a villain. I said, impossible. He said, no, man, he's a villain. He came out with Scott Hall, Kevin Nash. Dude, it's called the NWO, and it's big. So I started watching it, and guess what happened? They got momentum, and they made competition with WWE. Guess what? WWE got better, a lot better because of WCW. And through the competition, everything got better. So I think James Gunn is a big part of Kevin Feige pushing back and being like, let's think about what we're going to put out because James Gunn is around the corner. And James Gunn has been in Marvel in a long, long time, has been watching, and is good friends with Kevin Feige and knows the systematic of what they do to be successful. And he knows Phase 4 hasn't been that good, and he knows what people are talking about because James Gunn will treat you back. Hey, is this and this? He'll treat you no. He'll treat you like, I don't know, we'll see. He's that guy. He's very active with treating back to people that tweet him. So I think he has a bigger part of that. I don't think Ant-Man has anything to do with him, whether or not he's slowing back the content. I think James Gunn has a big part of it.
Fascinating perspective. It does make a lot of sense. I partially agree with you, Joe. I partially disagree. I feel like at, let's say, about mid phase 4, maybe the end of phase 4, they were like, man, we got a lot of cleanup to do, right? So they're like, we got some cleanup to do. But then, and this is where I agree with you, now we have competition. So we spent, let's say, 5 years. I don't know how long phase 4 was. It seemed like it was 100 years to get through it. But it seemed like they could just turn out any sort of garbage and people were going to watch it because, I mean, DC was, come on, Wonder Woman 84, that pretty much sums up the product that DC was putting out, right?
Yeah.
So now it's like they look, to your point, Joe, they're like, wow, there's someone who understands how to treat superhero movies correctly. So we have to start treating superhero movies correctly and start respecting the fans, because one thing we know about James Gunn, he respects the fans. He respects the content. And I feel like Marvel has not been respecting the content, kind of like what Alfonso said. They took a Fantastic Four story and they're like, you know what we should remove from this story? The Fantastic Four. They've just been disrespecting the content for years. And now they're like, dang, we can't do that anymore. So I agree with you, Joe, but I feel like the writing was on the wall before James Gunn showed up, but now they have to put it in overdrive.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
that was an excellent analogy too with NWO and WWE.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
I dug that one too, my dude. I was like, did I say that?
Oh yeah, bro.
Yeah. I got you watching
you're like,
WCW.
He doesn't even wear yellow and orange or yellow and red anymore. What? Yeah, it's all black. It's a black bandana. He goes, he even colored his beard. It's like black and I'm like, damn, really? I'm like, yeah, man. It's like
blonde hair and a black beard.
Yeah, I was like, oh, okay, let me check this out. And you didn't have Google then. You had to like watch it. They didn't have YouTube. You had to really watch it like next Monday. You know what I mean, dude? Otherwise, you weren't watching it.
Excellent point. Hey, Joe, one of the things that you mentioned, and Alfonso, I'm going to ask you to sort of give your opinion on it, was Kang, as of right now, based on what we've seen with Loki and also with this movie, has Kang been a better villain, or is Kang a better villain than Thanos? What do you think?
Oh, that's tough, man. That's really tough because Thanos had a slow build. He was a mastermind behind everything that was going on. He was the one funding Loki when he invaded in the first Avengers movie. I mean, Kang, Kang the Conqueror that we got to know in Quantumania, amazing villain. And you could tell he was nerfed because he didn't have everything at his disposal. And he was still whooping it. You could tell he's going to be even stronger. Is he dead? I don't know. Is he coming back? I don't know. But the Council of Kang, so that's just one of Kang the Conqueror is one person. Council of Kang, that was a grip of Kangs, man. That was Kang-tastic. I mean, you had a Skrull King out there. You know what I mean? You had Rama Tut, who I got mad respect for. You had oh my gosh, I forget. I know 2 or 3 of their names. So when I saw him, I'm like, that's that. And I don't know, man. That's a force to be reckoned with because they're across every timeline. That's a lot of people to do the same thing that one person was doing. Are they as powerful as him? Are they more powerful than him? I don't know, man. I think at this point, I wouldn't say he's bigger than Apocalypse. I wouldn't say he was bigger than Thanos, doing bigger stuff. But potentially, I think he has so much more potential than Thanos ever did.
I'm going to jump in front of you, Joe, because I think I know what you're going to say. So I'm cutting in line. They just rushed him. It's like what you said. Yeah, there was this slow build, right? It's like, who's the man pulling the strings?
Mhm.
You know, he comes in for a cameo here and there. He pops up at the end of the movie. They introduce this character who's supposed to be like the big bad for the next like 8 years. And this dude, first of all, gets in a fist fight with Ant-Man and loses. Okay. And then he basically gets outsmarted through the entire movie by the Michelle Pfeiffer character, Janet Van Dyne, and by Cassie. Like, oh, I'm supposed to be the super mega genius, but I'm getting outsmarted by basically everybody, right? And then I feel like the Council of Kangs, who cares? Like, really, who cares? Because I feel like, well, yeah, I care too, but here's why I don't care. Because I feel like that's one of those things where to create a Council of Kangs creates a series of variables where it just throws too much stuff out there. Oh, well, this is Ramatut. Oh, this is this Kang. Oh, this is He Who Remains. Oh, this is Iron Lad. That's just too many variables. It's moving in too many directions. Council of Kangs is one of those things that's great in a comic book, but to try and introduce it into a series of movies that's supposed to have a continuous storyline when the villain himself basically can rewrite storylines and basically like they never existed, it's just too much. So Thanos was better. Thanos was a better villain so far. Joe.
Well, I'll just piggyback what you said. So, I appreciate the Council of Kangs because, if you read the comics, you see it, and they did it very well because it's straight out of the comics. The thing, here's the issue with that is, and the three gentlemen you mentioned in that end credit scene, if you don't read the comics, you don't know who the hell they are. If they made Kang like a Thanos type threat, and by the end of the movie, you see a bunch of Thanos in the arena, you're like this. They can't handle one, and now it's a whole arena full of Thanoses. Good Lord, but you don't see that because, to your point, he did get beat up by Ant-Man, but he was busting Ant-Man's ass. I mean, he really had hope from Hope because Hope came in and blasted him, right? But and they made it a point to let you know that his thing was damaged, because he looked at it for like 5 minutes. Hey, it's damaged, so you knew they were going to fist fight, but. Like in Loki, like if you watch the series, but what if someone doesn't watch Loki? So if you watch Loki, he has this time device where he can manipulate time and move and dodge, and you can't touch the guy. And so that's one of his things that he uses when he tries to fight the Avengers. So you make it a point of like, have I killed you before? Are you Thor? You seem intimidating. And don't get me wrong, Jonathan Majors is a great ass actor, man. So he can give that impression that he's really a tough dude. But what did he do? Like, all you did was talk. And then at the end of the day, he got beat up by Ant-Man, which I get. He's not at his full power. And people probably trip out because of the ants. But then again, you got to remember the ants have 1,000 of technology, 1,000 years of their life to build up their technology. So he did get beat up by a lot of ants. I mean, that's a lot of ants. But if you look at it and he blasts someone that doesn't know who Kang is, you'd be like, is that just another Iron Man doing an energy blast? And is that in an Iron Man with a shield? So you really don't get to see Kang's true potential if you don't read the comics and you're just watching the movie, because you've seen what Thanos can do. But just the way he looked and the way they presented him, you knew something was coming. Where, to your point, Alan, they rushed it so much because all of Phase 4, besides Loki, there's no mention of Kang. So now you got this movie with Kang. You're like, here's Kang, the big badass. And, it's not believable to see a whole arena full of Kang and think, oh, man, this is Kang Dynasty. It's going to be this and this and that. You know what I mean? It's like they there's no, for me, it's no like you're right. Thanos for me is just the way they did Thanos was a lot better.
I just remember the big purple hat guy, Galactus looking guy. That's Immortus, right? That's one of the other kings. But one of the things in the comics, Kang is super reliant on his technology. Yeah, he can fight, he can throw down, but it's his technology that puts him over the top of anybody. It's like, yeah, he knew it's going to happen before it was going to happen. He's got a device for this, he's got a device for that. He did not have that available to him. So even still, I mean, he was about to win. He didn't, of course, but he didn't have his full arsenal. It's like going in with no arms. And yeah, those ants. I mean, any kind of manifestation of some kind of a swarm will take pretty much anybody down. I mean, ants. Locusts. A swarm mentality. That's the whole thing behind zombies. You get a swarm like that. It doesn't matter how slow they are. It doesn't matter how weak they are. Sheer numbers will take anybody down. So I saw the threat that he was, and I felt like, man, he could have been so much more if he had full access to everything he needed. So I don't know. I don't know how I was able to feel that, but I could tell. Maybe it's just because of my prior knowledge of Kang. But anytime they've pretty much taken him down, it's because they took his technology away, or they they somehow stunted him a little bit. So.
Yeah, but to your point right now, like if he's the smartest man, right? Do you really need Janet to help you build up your whatever the thing's called to make you go back? You're smart enough to do that. So if you're trying to tell me or someone else in the audience, hey, this guy's the smartest thing, but then you're like, why does she need Janet? She couldn't even get out of the Quantumania herself. You know what I mean, dude? So and then not to mention, dude, they did Hope dirty, bro. Like,
oh yeah,
I was like, oh, I forgot she was in the movie. They did her dirty. Right. And then like Michelle Pfeiffer, man, she still looks good, man. Like, yeah. And that's no filters, baby. But like she was even dope. She did more like dope stuff in there than Hope. And I kind of felt bad for her. You know what I mean? Because it's like, bro, like the Wasp, why even call it Ant-Man and the Wasp? She just called it Ant-Man Quantumania.
Because the Wasp was Janet Van Dyne Wasp.
Well, maybe if you wanted to say it that way.
And you guys know that Kang is a descendant of Reed Richards and also somehow of Dr. Doom. He's Kang. He comes from a lineage of super smart people. He has all the technology. Like even in what do you call it, Doctor Strange and Multiverse of Madness, you saw Reed Richards come in his, I guess it's the Doom's time platform or whatever they call it. I think there was one of the Council of Kings that you see pop up the same way. So he's still using that technology. It's his birthright. So I can't wait to see how they make the connection with that. I've heard some speculation that they might change it to where he's more a direct descendant of T'Challa, but I'm not buying that. I don't see why they need to change that at all. There's no reason for it.
It doesn't matter though. I mean, it doesn't really matter. Like people don't. I don't think that movie did a good representation of how powerful Kang is. No, and it's going to make people go YouTube videos. Right. Let me go YouTube Kang. He's really strong. Yep, but you don't get that perception like you did with Thanos.
Yeah, I was watching, I don't know what it was, maybe YouTube or TikToks or whatever it was, and they were talking about a time when Black Bolt went to blast Kang. Kang created like a time tunnel, and Black Bolt's blast ended up blasting something else because Kang was able to basically move the like Black Bolt's blast through time and space. To your point, Joe, when you talk about his fighting style, there were so many things that could have been done, and you know what, his suit's damaged. Really, that's what we're doing? That's why he was a crap villain in this movie, because its suit's damaged. But then Alfonso says, oh, he's descendant of two of the most intelligent men in all of the multiverse and time. But he couldn't even fix his own ship. Really? But why? because
Mhm.
he's that intelligent. It's almost like they lead you to believe that Kang is just some normal guy,
Mhm.
like just chilling, working at 7-Eleven, and he gets this technology, and he takes this technology and goes off and wants to conquer everything, as
Mhm.
opposed to he's a genius
Yeah.
and he utilizes the technology. But the main thing is he's a genius, and
Mhm.
they completely overlook that.
Yeah. And then
What's
you remember when the guy with the I think it was a robot with the energy blast, where he fired his energy blast and he did this dope little spin around where he changed the color of the orange flames to blue and just jacked his ass up. That's Kane. That's Kane. And you don't see any more of that. Dude, that's Kane, bro. Like
yeah.
that's what makes him dope like that. To your point, that's like when you talked about Black Bolt, that's what Kane does. Like I would have been cool with like you introduce Kang a little bit, right? And he's not yet going through the quantum realm to 616 yet, but build it to where he's sending informants to see how it is and how he's going to go there and conquer, and build up to him getting out. And then by King Dynasty, he's out. And then it builds up to it. Like he has spies, he has people that works for him. It's just I don't know, dude. Like, I guess we're just nitpicking. I don't know. I guess I'm just
You know what's funny? Earlier, Dukes, when you're talking about the guy at 7-Eleven who stumbles upon all this future tech, you just described Booster Gold coming to a theater near you.
You're absolutely right. And Booster Gold is his whole thing is like, he's just a normal guy.
Mm-hmm.
But Kang is just the complete opposite of just a normal guy. I mean, the intelligence, the planning, the strategy, and then to be defeated by a speech from a teenager. God forbid that's how I ever go out, where I got some great plan and some teenager comes up for her homecoming prom speech and is like, come on, guys, we can fight him. No, because he wasn't demolishing you for millions and millions of years, but all of a sudden your speech is going to get us hyped up.
Yeah.
What?
And then King's like, and I would have gotten away with it too if it wasn't for you crazy kids.
Yeah. And then also he's like, stop Ant-Man from coming through. Like you're smart, bro. Like you have devices on your thing. Like I you know what I mean? It's like you could have just, you're so smart, you didn't need to take your whole army there. At the end of the movie, when you're trying to get through it, you're like, screw my whole army, I'm just gonna go. If you would have did that in the beginning, you wouldn't be at the last minute trying to fight Ant-Man, you know what I mean, and getting blasted by Hope. It's just like, to your point, Alan, it's like I don't think they thought it through to the story.
They didn't. So I had a question for you guys, because I just kind of made this up in my mind to explain something away. What was he doing with that army? Like, was he going to go attack all the other timelines, or where was he going?
Yeah, I think that's what he was going to do.
He's not going to do all the work himself. That takes a lot of time. He just wants to chill and have things happen, come in when he needs to. I mean, can he do all the work by himself? Sure. I mean, is it going to be exhausting? Yeah. He's got this big old chair he wants to sit in, so he got time for that.
But like, dude, you had that much time to create a whole city and the army, but you couldn't create another device to get out of there.
He needed hardware batteries.
Exactly.
So if I'm telling someone that knows nothing about Kang, and I'm trying to tell, dude, this Kang guy's one of the smartest dudes ever, and they watch the movie, they're going to be like, really? He couldn't get out. He needed help from Janet. Like, he's smart. He got beat by ants. Granted, I mean, they're swarming, but he had a whole city of those dudes. I mean, I think I'd like to say he had just as many troops as he did those ants. When he was looking for the viewers, like a lot of them.
Were there people in armor, or were they like robot android things? Because I thought one talk. I'm like, wait a minute.
Yes.
That's another thing. You don't know.
Right.
You don't. Is he? You don't know, bro.
Here's why I say that. Here's why I say they had to be robots. It's the old GI Joe rule. Remember in
Right.
GI Joe when you were watching the cartoon, at first no one would ever get shot, which is why they created the bats, right? The bats were the mechanized Cobra guys. They were robots, so that when people shot, they would go down, but they weren't really people. So I kind of feel like Marvel did that too, where they were like, "Oh no, these are robots. So if we shoot them and they disintegrate or whatever, it's all good because they're not people."
Yeah, but if here's the thing, if they're not people, he's like, "What's the code?" And like, "Oh, 18735," and I'm like, "So is he human in there? Like, what is he?"
Yeah.
Because if you're a robot's not gonna think, "Oh, let me, it's 187." Like, if he's a robot, he's not gonna think like that. I wouldn't think. But then, again, they're just Russian stuff.
You didn't see somebody go down,
Yeah.
and the other guy is like, "Jimmy, no, not Jimmy."
Yeah. It's like they're just Russian.
Okay, I got
stuff.
another question for you guys. And this is, I need some clarification from you guys because there's some stuff that just didn't make sense to me. Okay. Janet Van Dyne gets out of the quantum realm. She never ever mentions any of that to anybody. Like that would be like if I was in Ontario and I was driving to Alfonso's house and I saw like Godzilla along the way, right?
Mhm.
I'm not going to be like, "Hey, Alfonso, what's for dinner?" I'd be like, "Bro, guess what I saw?" Right? But for some reason, she decides she's not going to tell anybody. And then she freaks out when they actually go to the quantum realm when it's her fault. Nobody knew about it.
Yeah.
So here's my question.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. I guess my question is like, why wasn't any of that stuff in the quantum realm? Like when they took her out, none of that stuff was there. And why didn't she mention it?
Okay, she was too embarrassed that she helped form this rebellion, and she doesn't know if they won or lost, and she bailed on them. She was too embarrassed about that. All right. The other thing is, she's like, they can't. Well, if Kang can't get out, they can't get out, so it's not my problem. Like if you went down the street and you saw Godzilla and you came over here, you'd be like, "Hey, Godzilla's coming," but he's here. Quantum realm is just, it's like it's not happening. So it was kind of a moot point. Of course, she was embarrassed of it. She didn't want to bring it up. She didn't want to tell Hank that she was over there with Bill Murray. So she acted like there was nothing there. Like when he found her, it was like on the outskirts. It wasn't near the city, so he didn't see the city, right? So it's stupid. She should have brought it up. She should have told them all about it, but she was just embarrassed. She had friends and people that she loved and trusted, and she bailed on them. So she felt remorse. She didn't want to bring that up. I don't know. That's my thought.
Not. No, bro, stop it, dude. Stop.
Is it 1999?
Be embarrassed because you banged Bill Murray. I get that. Don't mention that. But if you know this dude can't get out, you don't leave that information out. And then get mad when you're stuck in there. And then everyone's like, "Oh, he's a baddie. He's a baddie. He's a baddie." Well, you knew he's a baddie. All you had to say was like, "Look, I helped this dude do this." You didn't have to mention Bill Murray. You didn't have to mention a rebellion. All you had to mention was like, "This dude, I saw some things. We can't go down there."
Right.
Not to mention, you're gonna let because Ghost, she needs some particles from the Quantumania. You're gonna let him go in there and grab some stuff. And at the end of Ant-Man 2, when they got blimped, you were okay with him going then doing that, but you're not okay with them communicating. You know what I mean? It's just lazy writing again, dude. Like, and then it's like, "Oh yeah, I banged Linda, but she wasn't you, baby." It's like, come on, man. Come on, dude.
Yeah.
But I
don't think that
enjoyed the
line would
movie
have
though.
worked with like anyone.
No, bro. There's no way. You're in trouble, dude. There's no way. Well, I did it too, so we good. It's just, I don't know. 30 years is a long time. But even though I was still entertained. I mean, it was better than some of the stuff in Phase 4. But again, I'm not looking for anything to be really big coming out of Ant-Man. So for me, I don't go in there getting disappointed too much. I mean, even though it sounds like I'm disappointed because you're just talking loud about critiquing a movie, but it was very enjoyable. Like,
So my question for you guys: is Kang the Conqueror still alive? Is he coming back?
Yeah. Hence the name Kang Dynasty. No spoilers or anything, Marvel, but you named an entire movie that you already released the name of Kang Dynasty. Done.
yeah.
But you got the Council of Kang. There's 4 billion of other Kangs out there. It doesn't have to be Kang the Conqueror.
But Kang the Conqueror in the comics is the one that killed him. He became King Prime.
Yeah.
So, and then, you know, like when Ant-Man went down there to try to retrieve whatever, I'm so bad at names and stuff. That's where he went. So there's probably a bunch of Kangs in there that he's argued with down there. Because that's where he went.
Right.
Yeah. So let me ask you, gentlemen, this. 3 Ant-Man movies have come out so far. And I'm going to jump in first because you already know the answer. 3 Ant-Man movies come out. How do you rank them? Here's how I'm going to rank them. The first Ant-Man movie was awesome, phenomenal. It had great supporting cast. Where's Lewis? Okay?
Exactly.
Lewis was the best part, and they just got rid of him, okay? Because they wanted to fit in some goofy aliens, but they didn't have Lewis. Okay, so Ant-Man 1 is best. I'm actually putting Ant-Man. Oh, man, they were both such garbage. I think I'm going to put Ant-Man 2 ahead of Ant-Man 3, and Ant-Man 3 was just okay. So 1, 2, 3, in that order. There you go. Alfonso Westman Flores, how do you rank the X-Men, or excuse me, the Ant-Man trilogy?
I'm going to agree. One was definitely the best. I am going to put 3 before 2. And I'm beyond livid that Luis didn't show up in at least the end credits. I totally thought it was going to be the end credits, you know. But yeah, I'm going to go 1, 3, and 2, just because 3 introduces Kang, and Kang is, I mean, even though he got beat, I see it, man. I can see the big picture. He's looking good.
Joe, rank him.
Yeah, for me, like I'm similar to you, Alan. It's 1, 2, 3. Yeah. 3 might have went in front of 2 if Luis was in it. You know what I mean? Somehow, if you're gonna make a lazy writing story and try to make me believe Cassie's a genius, then can you put my boy Luis in there? I mean, you're already making some lazy moves in writing. Can you just add him? I don't care. He could have been, dude. Can we have Luis? Luis could have been telling the story of him in his book and how he's a hero and stuff like that. That'd have been awesome, dude.
Right.
Let me tell you about my boy Scott. They talk about my boy Scott, who became the hero. You know, I could just hear his voice, and that was like one of the biggest disappointments. That I wish Luis was in there. You know, like I would even take T.I. and the dude that goes bubble gubba. It's the bubble gubba. Like, you know, just those guys together, and then like now what? And 2, they have a security business, and now they don't. You know, I don't know, man. It's just, I think Ant-Man 3 was specifically written to introduce Kang, and I think that's what, for me, took away from Ant-Man as a movie, because at the end of the day, I don't view Ant-Man as a guy that's going to fight a big bad dude like Kang by himself. I just don't buy that. You know, like an Iron Man, I'd get you, and you know, Captain America, a Thor, even a Scarlet Witch. I just don't see, you know, this guy fighting Kang alone.
You know, real quick, the guy, Dave the Smallchin, the guy who was the Baba Yaga, he did the voice of that pink thing. It's like, oh, are you gonna drink me? You're gonna drink my juice? You know, I have a hole. I have holes. The same guy.
Yeah,
I mean, that was awful.
That's another lazy writing. I'll speak to you. Let me give you some of my bodily fluids, and it'll help you drink this, and you can understand everything. I'm like, dude, come on, man.
Yeah,
would it be more believable that they spoke English? Come on.
Any more believable than you coming up with some goo that makes you understand every language?
Yeah, that was awful. I'm gonna ask one final question for you gentlemen. And Joe, I'll let you go first, and then Alfonso, I'll let you take it. Does this movie leave you excited for Phase 5, or does it make you disappointed with the opening? Joe.
It makes me excited because of Jonathan Majors. Jonathan Majors makes me look forward to watching Creed 3. So I know if they write it well, and it, we've said this already, Kevin Feige said, let's take time to rewrite some stories. I think because Jonathan Majors is such a good actor, if they do it right, Kang will be so much better. And so Kang makes me look forward, going forward to Phase 5. Pretty much Jonathan Majors. He's the guy that makes me look forward to Phase 5.
Alfonso.
Yeah, I mean, I completely agree. I'm super excited for Phase 5. I mean, Jonathan Majors, this whole movie to me was just setting him up. That now we have kind of a baseline understanding of who he is, what he's doing, how much potential he's got, and totally excited for this, and I'm happy with it. So.
I have to agree with both of you gentlemen 100%. If it were not for Jonathan Major, I feel like I wouldn't be excited about Phase 5, but Phase 5 is Kang, and Kang is Jonathan Major, and Jonathan Major is absolutely amazing.
Mm-hmm.
So this concludes this episode of the Nerd World Order broadcast. So until next time, ladies, gentlemen, and knights of the Nerd World Order, I am NWO.
We are NWO.
Nerds Redefined. Booyah!